Hello, and welcome to the Gravel Ride podcast, where we go deep on the sport of gravel cycling through in-depth interviews with product designers, event organizers, and athletes who are pioneering the sport. I'm your host, Craig Dalton, a lifelong cyclist who discovered gravel cycling back in 2016 and made all the mistakes you don't need to make. I approach each episode as a beginner to unlock all the knowledge you need to become a great gravel cyclist. This week on the podcast, we welcome Laura Wisner to the show to talk about Cowtown Gravel. Cowtown Gravel is a Colorado event happening on July 6th, 2024 in Kremmling, Colorado. Kremmling is a town you might have been through on your way to Steamboat Springs, but it's a town the race organizers want you to remember, as the gravel is fantastic, as are the views. Laura's come on to talk to us about all you can expect from Cowtown Gravel and an interesting story about how she became familiar with Kremling in the first place. I hope you enjoy this episode. Before we jump in, I did need to thank this week's sponsor, Dynamic Cyclist. Dynamic Cyclist has been producing cycling-specific stretching and strengthening routines for many years now. They've got a vast library of content, both focused on you as a general cyclist, but also many different programs based on specific areas of weakness. It's during this period every year in the winter that I start thinking about how limiting my personal low back problems have made my cycling. So I love to dig into the Dynamic Cyclist low back routine, 6-week program, just focusing on getting those stretches needed to get deep into everything related to my hip flexors and lower back. It's a great reminder that stretching only takes a short amount of time for having a huge impact. All their videos are no longer than 15 minutes, so none of us has any excuses not to squeeze them into our winter routines to get us prepped for this season. I say that, and I'm not going to lie, I miss a day or two here or there, but it's on my mind, frankly, constantly, this idea that stretching is probably one of the most important things I can do to set myself up for success in 2024. So go on over to dynamiccyclist.com. They've got a 7-day free trial, so it's pretty easy to see if it's something that you would like. They're also offering our listeners a 15% off discount on any of their programs, which include either monthly or annual billing. So it's pretty flexible if you're someone who just wants to do some routines in the winter, for example. Anyway, head on over to dynamiccyclist.com, use the coupon code TheGravelRide, or follow the link in the show notes to get directly over there. With that business behind us, let's jump right into my conversation with Laura. Laura, welcome to the show.
I'm so glad that you have me here. Thank you.
Where are you sitting today?
I am based in Boulder, Colorado.
Okay. And I'm excited to get you on to talk about Cowtown Gravel, which is not in Boulder, Colorado. So why don't you just set the stage by telling us where Cowtown Gravel takes place, and why don't you drop the month it takes place as well?
Okay, so Cowtown Gravel is in Kremling, Colorado. It's going to take place for the second time on July 6th, 2024. And Kremling, for those who have been to Steamboat, if you are coming from the Front Range, Denver area, and you get off I-70, you go north, we are the crook in the road in between Silverthorne and Steamboat Springs. So Kremling is that little town that everybody has to go through, but may not have ever stopped there.
Yeah, I think as we discovered offline, on my way to Steamboat Gravel, I definitely went through Kremling. I lived in Boulder, and if you had asked me to point to it on a map prior to this conversation, I wouldn't have been able to do it. But it's clear from my driving through that area, it's absolutely a beautiful part of the state. So we'll get into why and how the event got started. But first, let's just learn a little bit more about you and how you found your way to cycling and gravel cycling specifically.
Yeah, well, I mean, old school is anybody who grew up in upper Midwest gravel road when they were kids, because not all roads were paved back then. So, I mean, I started as a kid just getting on my bike when we were up at our vacation cottage and just take off for hours and hours on a gravel road. You know, no cell phones. Parents had no idea where I was. no helmet, probably riding in cutoff jeans or something like that. But those were the good old days. And then as I became an adult and got into riding proper, got into road riding, mountain biking, cyclocross, and the blessing of living in Boulder County is that we have these amazing gravel roads. And people ask, well, why are you riding gravel? And I liken it to, if you live along one of the coasts, you learn to surf because it's right there and you should take advantage of it. So living here in Boulder County, um, it's crazy not to have a gravel bike, or at least change out your wheels, so you can get on our back roads and just go for miles and miles and hours. So it's
Yeah, I'm thinking back to what's
great.
probably my first quote unquote gravel event was Boulder Roubaix in the early 90s when I lived in Boulder. And I certainly rode that on 23C road tires. There's no doubt about it in my mind.
Yeah, and with my cycling friends and club, we would, even 10 years ago, a lot of us were just riding on gravel roads with, road tires. Um, and that was okay because they're so smooth around here. And if you got a little chunky, well, I hope your bike handling skills are up to the challenge. But, this uh, gravel revolution happened, and all of a sudden you have all these options, um, not only in tires but all of a sudden frames, and it just became um, this celebration of all things gravel. And so now it's just another bike in your quiver. So
Yeah,
yeah, we
yeah.
did that too.
As gravel started to become popularized and specific bikes started to arrive, were you someone who found your way to gravel events outside of Boulder County?
Yeah, I did the very first Steamboat Gravel. Did that for a couple of years. And at that point, I was racing cross. And so what I would do is use my cross bike and just switch out the wheels. But, with a one by, there's some pretty good grades around here. If you head up the mountains straight from Boulder, you can go up to Gold Hill or Ward. Um, it's a little hard on a one by. That's a pretty good workout in and of itself. And geometry is not quite right. So it became a love of mine to the point where, okay, I'm going all in. I'm buying the frame, the specific um, gravel bike, and got rid of the road frame, and even got rid of the cross bike, and gravel's pretty much it at this point.
Nice. And so let's talk about your connection to Kremling, Colorado, and how you became familiar with the area in the first place.
Yeah, so Kremmling, other than being the bend in the road as you go up to Steamboat, it's the West Grand County area. So people know Winter Park. Winter Park is East Grand. Kremling is West Grand. And so I've been in Grand County quite a bit, skiing and cycling and things like that. But my husband is a family practice physician, and for 5 years he was Kremling's town doc. And so we kept our family home base here in Boulder, and he would go up to Kremling midweek. And it's a small community; it's predominantly a ranching community, and he got to know the people, and um, I got to slowly know more of the people. And when I would go up to visit him midweek, we would go for gravel rides, and I was just blown away by roads that I didn't know existed. The quality of the gravel was incredible. And I had ridden Boulder roads, I'd ridden around Steamboat, and Kremling is just unsurpassed as far as the quality of its gravel and the roads that we rode for 3 hours, and I think one truck passed us. Um,
Yeah,
so uh, being part of Cowtown Gravel is just my way of giving back to that community and being able to lend my excitement for what the area has to offer to other folks who love gravel as much as I do.
I've got many questions about Cowtown Gravel, but I have to take us on a quick detour because I'm curious. I'm curious about becoming the town doctor for a community. Was your husband sort of offered employment at the city or county level to come and be a physician for that community? And my only point of reference is watching Doc Hollywood recently with my 9-year-old son.
uh, my husband was a physician on the Front Range for a while, and part of the bigger system that sometimes is kind of beholden to insurance companies, and he just wanted something different. And in Boulder, a little bit of his frustration was continually patting people on the back, saying, "You're healthy as a horse, continue that marathon training or climbing or whatever you're doing." He wanted something a little bit more challenging.
Yeah.
And when you go to a rural community, you get to see a lot more. Um, Kremling does have an incredible health system up there. They were the first in Colorado to have a trauma one emergency room uh, decades ago, and they're top notch healthcare up there. But it's hard to find doctors in rural areas, so um, he his attention was called to this position, and he went up there and thought, you know what, I want to do this. And truly, the only reason that he came back to the Front Range after 5 years is because we have a kid who's finishing up high school, and he wanted to be present for that last
Yeah.
year. And so he made the change, but there is a part of both his and my heart that is still in K-Town.
Yeah, you had mentioned obviously part of his journey was getting to know members of the community, and de facto with your visits there, you started to get to know some of the community members. And as avid cyclists exploring, it sounds like you found other gravel cyclists who were based out of Cowtown. Can you talk about some of those characters you met?
Oh yeah, and the biggest character of all is Sean Scholl, who is a co-race promoter with along with Blaine Day. And Sean is Big Shooter of Big Shooter Coffee, and he is this incredibly loud, large character who is just incredible and so full of fun and has a lot of energy. And he was a world class athlete, and I would even say still is. Um, so he lives up there, and he and Blaine are cycling buddies, and they wanted to create an event up in Kremling, welcome the world to come and check out the back roads. And when I heard through the grapevine that they were going to have this gravel race, I reached out to them and I said, "I'm in. I want to help. What can I do?" My background is in marketing, and so I was able to lend that to the organization. And so the really incredible thing about Blaine and Sean is that they're not trying to create an event that is just real easy. Come on up, and we'll show you our back roads, and we'll just have a great day. They surprised people in our first year with how hard it was. Um, so the Kremling gravel, we call it untapped and untamed, which is when you drive into Kremling, that's the sign as you come into town, welcome to Kremling, untapped and untamed. And we decided to put that as our gravel moniker. There are roads that you couldn't even tell that it's gravel because it almost feels paved. Um, and then you can go a little further in and get a little bit chunkier, a little bit rowdier. And what these guys are doing is they are creating an experience for all three of our course lengths that people are just blown away by. They're blown away by the climbing. They're blown away by sections of roads or trails that they didn't even know existed. So we had such good feedback last year that the two mad scientists went back to the drawing board of the Map My Ride this year and made it even rowdier. So we're really excited to have those people who joined us last year come and see what we have in store this year.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. So, why don't talk a little bit about the gravel? I mean, obviously, if you go a little further up the road, an hour to Steamboat, they talk about Champagne Gravel. You've been describing it a little bit, but it sounds like the team at Cowtown is trying to make sure that both our climbing legs as well as our technical skills are explored. So what type, if you think about through the course of the longer course, think about the types of terrain and describe some of the different areas, whether it's single track, double track, or a dirt road that you might find yourself on.
Yeah. So right now on cowtowngravel.com, we have the maps available to folks. With the one caveat is that these might change because we're working with the Bureau of Land Management, and the BLM um, still are going to tell us yes or no on some sections. So we put the scenario on that has more paved segments than non-paved. I should say all of our three races are predominantly gravel. If the BLM will give us permission, we're going to take off more paved sections and add more gravel or unpaved. So our longest course is called the Bull. It's 90 miles and it has 8,000 feet of climbing. So as it stands right now, worst case scenario, it's 76% unpaved, which is pretty incredible in and of itself. So we start right outside of Town Square. We're going to start at the high school. It's all downtown Kremling. And we're going to start going northeast. And if we're starting with paved, so it's going to be a pretty fast start. There will be a peloton, and some people can hang on for dear life, and some are just going to hard charge from the start. From there, we get to a really smooth gravel. It's very similar to a pavement, and you will hardly even tell that it's gravel. And it's just hard pack. It's beautiful. And from there, we go to what we call the whoop-de-woos, and just rolling up and down. And that is probably one of our chunkier sections. A little bit looser, a little bit larger rock section, but it is something that anybody with halfway decent bike handling skills is going to be able to accomplish. And they're fun. And so we go from there back to a nice hard pack gravel. Something that is new this year is we're going up Black Mountain, which is about a 1,600-foot climb. And both the Bull long course and the Cow mid-length course will go up Black Mountain. And at the top, they're going to go down through 3 miles of private ranch land, which is super cool because, part of the fun of gravel is exploring roads and places you've never been. So this private ranch land is only going to be accessible on race day. So you can't pre-ride it, can't check it out the day before. So that is going to be a really fun first climb, and it'll probably set the pack apart a bit there.
And how about on that descent? Is it the type of thing that it's sort of wide open and it's full gas, or are there some technical elements to it that you need to be cautious about?
It's going to be fine. It's not going to be super technical because we are taking the mid and the long course through it. We wanted to make sure that we're not busting anybody going down that. So it's totally rideable, and you won't need shocks and you won't need mountain bike handling skills. But I mean, those people who want to go fast certainly can let it loose on that. It'll be great.
Yeah. And then it looks like from the course profile that you hit another big climb.
Well, here's where the two courses diverge. So the Bull will go up again, and they'll go up Grouse Mountain. This was a part of the course from last year that people really enjoyed. So they'll go up, and Grouse Mountain is it's a gravel road for ranchers to access their ranches. So it's just a normal road. Once you get up towards the loop, there is going to be a little bit more dirt section versus gravel. And the whole loop has been expanded this year, so people can catch their breath this year. Check out the views. That's our highest point in the race, and it's really beautiful. There's a abandoned cabin up there. There are streams that people often just fill their water bottles with unfiltered water, and are totally fine. So we are going back up Grouse Mountain on the long course, doing a lollipop, and then coming back down again.
Got
So,
it. And I forgot to mention or ask, what elevation is Kremmling to start with?
oh, Kremling is, sorry about that. Kremling is a little bit lower. I'd have to check that out.
Yeah, so a little bit lower than Boulder, so we're not in the stratosphere when we climb up 1600 feet.
I'm not going to say it's lower than Boulder, but it's
Okay.
not. 73, almost 7,400 feet.
Okay, so that's no joke for us flatlanders.
Well, we have to give you some element of the mountains here, but it's not like you're starting up at 11,000 feet. I mean, you're going to feel the altitude a little bit if you're coming from sea
Yeah,
level.
that's part of the
Yeah,
fun. Okay,
yeah.
so we've gone up and down Grouse Mountain. What comes next?
Okay, so what we're doing this year is we are reversing course around our reservoir. Williams Fork Reservoir is just beautiful. And last year we started and went around it counterclockwise. And so the peloton was pretty tight through all of that. This portion is paved to get to the Williams Fork Reservoir. You just have a little bit on the highway, but then a little climb again, about 500 feet, and then you'll go around the water um, and start heading back towards Kremling. So it's really scenic and just really kind of a nice thing to see water. Uh, water is a big issue for us here in the West, and so you're going to cross the Colorado on a bridge, and you're going to go around the Williams Fork and see mountains in the background, and it's just really spectacular if you can catch your breath and look up once in a while.
I forgot to ask this on air, but how do you sort of cast the event in terms of a race versus a ride? And is it a heavily competitive element in the front end?
So the spirit of Cowtown Gravel is we wanted to welcome people to Kremling and have them stop an hour earlier than Steamboat. Um, Kremling is only an hour and a half, 2 hours from the Front Range, depending on where you are. We wanted to invite people to Kremling and check out our gravel. Secondly, it is a fundraiser for the community gym floor. The floor is half pulled out, and the multi-generational community just really needs a place to work out. That there's, the schools need a place to have the kids' sports. The older folk need a place to work out. And so this is a fundraiser for the Middle Park Gym. And so we don't have a prize purse at this point. We are trying to raise money. And so we have had some really competitive people come the first year. We had some semi-pros and some pros come. And again, this year we are not going to offer a prize purse um, because this is a fundraiser. But that said, there were some pretty fast cats who came and raced. But we welcome those who just want to come out for an event and get access to this ranch that they're never going to be able to ride on again. Um, do the short course, which we call the path course, which is um, just really a welcoming section of Kremling gravel. E-bikes are welcome on it. Families are welcome on it. People who just don't want to commit the time or the distance. This is a 35-mile, just under 35-mile course,
Yeah.
with 2,200 miles of elevation gain. So
Yeah.
we hope that some more pros come out. We're going to reach out and invite folks. But you're going to the fun of gravel is you can come race an event or just come out and ride it because you're with a few hundred of your like-minded friends.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you're a great distance away from the front range to kind of come out and experience something unique. And I always love when events are able to negotiate access to land that we wouldn't otherwise get to ride, because it just adds a sort of additional special element to the day.
Well, in the special elements, the one of the things about Kremling is that it being a ranch community, Big Shooter, Sean, is a fifth generation rancher. And so he goes out and personally talks to the ranchers along the course and asks them, please don't do your cattle drive a few days before or this day because we're going to have a lot of cyclists coming through. Um, can you imagine a herd of cattle on the road trying to compete for the road with cyclists? Or if they do their cattle drive a couple days before, you're going to have a lot of cow pies being flipped up with the
Yeah.
gravel. So it's um, a unique aspect that Cowtown has. I mean, it really is true to its name in that aspect.
Yeah, that's great. I'm sure that Sean, as a local and a cattleman himself, is able to get his peers excited for the option of allowing cyclists to come through town and not get too annoyed that their day might be a little bit disrupted by a peloton at some point.
Well, you could get that in an urban setting or anywhere, but the community of Kremling was really wonderful. We had people from the retirement community make breakfast burritos and sold those before the race as a fundraiser. We had the high school band come and play at the after party. We had ranchers who were just out on their horses along the course and waving us on and cheering for us. And it's just a really cool, unique event.
That's fun. I was going to ask you, like, if someone was interested in coming to the event, are there accommodations in Kremling, or do people typically drive in that day? Are they staying over?
It's a mix because we're about an hour from Winter Park, well, about an hour from Steamboat, um, but less than an hour from Summit County. And so there are a lot of folks in Colorado who have vacation homes. And so they might come up, do the events for the day. And because we're so close to the Front Range, within 2 hours, some people might just make it a day event, go up and back. Kremling does have lodging. We have a little bit of lodging. So if you're going to want a hotel to sleep in a bed, get your lodging early. We do have an RV park. We have BLM land for camping. Um, there's camping around the reservoir that we're going to ride around. So um, I would recommend that if people want to come up, and we would love to have you, we're going to have a great time afterward. Spend the night before, spend the night after, but make your plans early, especially because it is the 4th of July holiday week.
Okay. And so, what's the experience like once we cross the finish line? What should riders expect at that point?
Well, we have expanded our finish line experience this year. And we learn things as every race organization does. So this year we're going to have an arch welcoming people in. So it feels like, I'm done. Um, we finish at Town Square, which has a brand new pavilion. So there's going to be a lot of shade. Um, we're going to have a band again. We're going to have food for people. There's a beer trailer. Kids can run around with their shoes off. It's just a really clean park. And people they hung out and it's the après experience. You say hello to old friends, you talk to people you might have met on course and rode with for a while. Um, so it was a really nice event that it's the kind of thing where people hang out for a few hours and just chat it up and talk about their experience.
Nice.
Yeah.
And prior to this recording, you'd sent me a photo, and you told me there was an interesting story. So it's a photo. I'm looking at a wide expanse of beautiful grazing land, backdrop of beautiful Colorado mountains. I think that's a mosaic bike, but the rider is wearing what seems to be a bull skull on their head.
Close. So that rider is Ben Delaney, and he came up in order to check out the course last year. And Ben is a cycling journalist who's been around forever. So that was on the top of Grouse Mountain. And we took a little stop at the top to look around, take pictures. And he points at the ground and he says, "What's that?" And of course, Cowtown. It's a cow pelvis bone. And the thing is really funny because it just looks like something out of a action hero movie. And so he started wearing it as a mask, wore it as a breastplate, was just hamming it up in front of a camera. But you know, it's trembling and there's going to be cow bones laying around. So that in fact is a cow pelvis.
It's a great image, and I'll make sure to put that as part of the episode art so people can check it out. So
Yeah.
what's the best way for people to find out more about Cowtown Gravel? When are you opening up registration?
So we are opening registration to the public on January 6th, 2024. People who sign up for our newsletter get to register a full day early. So in our inaugural year last year, we had 350 spots and they sold out and people were begging for a wait list. And so this year we are going to open up to 700 spots. And we do fully expect to sell out again. So again, go to cowtowngravel.com and we put as much information as possible on our website, including a link to register, the course maps, descriptions, where to find lodging. It's all on our website.
Great. And definitely give them a follow on Instagram and see some of those great views we've been talking about. It looks like a lot of fun. I definitely love these sort of rural town starts. It's really cool to see another part of Colorado kind of raising their hand and saying, hey, we've got great riding here too. And it's exciting that Sean and Blaine kind of took this opportunity to sort of write a gravel love letter to their hometown and invite 700 of their new friends to come join them in 2024.
Yeah, we promise that it'll be an experience that will not soon be forgotten.
Awesome.
And we'd love
Thanks
to
for
have
the
you,
time,
Chris.
Laura.
Come back out to Colorado. We'd love to see you.
Yeah, I definitely need another Colorado trip in my life. That's for sure. Thanks
Well,
for
we
all the
will.
time, Laura.
All right. Thank you.
That's going to do it for this week's edition of the Gravel Ride Podcast. Big thanks to Laura for coming on the show and talking to us about Cowtown Gravel. If you're listening to this in early January, registration opens up on January 6th. So make sure to head on over to the Cowtown Gravel website, which I will link to in the show notes, and grab a registration if this event sounds like your cup of tea. Big thanks to our friends at Dynamic Cyclists for sponsoring the show. Remember, use the code TheGravelRide for 15% off any of their programs. If you're interested and are able to support the show, ratings and reviews are hugely appreciated. It really helps in our discoverability. Better yet, send a text message to one of your riding buddies and share the show with them. That's another great way to grow the community. Until next time, I'm wishing you a happy new year, and here's to finding some dirt under your wheels.